Time to learn about some social media. Who's excited about that? Say yeah.
Yeah.
Who likes that?
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of things I've mentioned during the day about some handouts that you need to get. One of them is this here, which is the unique selling proposition and guarantee questionnaire. It takes about 6 weeks to complete. It will force you to survey customers, look at your competitors, and understand what it is about you that you can market yourself as a point of difference and you guarantee. You'll grab that on the way out. Along with this here, this is 357 strategies that you can pick from to get you a 10% increase in each of those 5 areas we went through before the break. And then the final one there is a checklist of the 6 steps, because as you can see today, we're not going to get through every step of the 6 steps. But this actually has a checklist you can go through and see what is it you have or haven't completed in your business and what do you need to get done. Now, if you're one of the people that have joined our programs, of course, your coach is going to take you through all of this and help you with it. If not, you'll get those on the way out. Make sure you grab them off the team as you go out. Last thing for the drinks, because we're going to be having some drinks. I'm going to be putting some drinks on the bar at about 4:45. Who's excited about that? Say yeah. All right. Now, before I get stuck into teaching you about social media, where's Anthony from the coffee van? Where are you, Anthony? Anthony's over there. Anthony, that story I told you about the Coffee Cravers Club. See him afterwards. Last time he came to the seminar, I told the same story. He's got a coffee van and he asked his customers about it and they all said they love the idea. So he's actually got the card made up and he's launching it in January. So well done, Anthony. Over here. So, Anthony, come and get a free book, buddy. Give him another hand. Well done, mate. I like people that take action, because if you want massive results, you've got to take massive what?
Action.
Action. Simple as that. You take massive action, you'll get massive results.
That's a good story.
All right. So, question I get asked all the time, I have a small business, do I really need to be on social media? What do you think the answer is? Yes. Why? Everybody uses it? Yeah, 16 million Australians are online. That would be a good reason for you to be there. How many Australians are there? How many? We won't split hairs. 21, 22 million? 22 million?
How about the illegal?
6 Australians. 16 million Aussies are online. That tells us that a lot of us are online. And they've done a lot of surveys. In fact, there was a company called Melbourne IT that did a survey about 6 months ago where they went out to hundreds of people to survey how they're now trying to find information. And they said that the yellow page, what percentage of people do you think are now using the yellow pages? 3%. 3%? Anybody else have a guess? 1%? 7%. So 7% of people are still using the yellow pages. What percentage of those do you think are over 40? They're all older people. Older people. Halfway through their life people. People that had used the yellow page in the 7%. 93%, that means are using what? What do you use when you want to find something? Google. Okay, we're using Google. But they also said in the study that 100% of the people they surveyed had used Google or used Google to research a product or service they're going to buy. So this tells us that we need to be online. 100% is a pretty big number, right? 100%. And they also said that 61% of those online searches were done using a what? What do you think? A mobile or phone or tablet. Which also tells us if we're going to be online, we have to make sure that everything we do is mobile friendly. How many of your websites are what's called responsive? Who's got a website? Let's start there. Who's got a... Okay. Keep your hand up if it is mobile responsive. It means it works brilliantly on a smartphone. Excellent. Fantastic. Give those people a hand. Well done. For the rest of you, guess what? You're losing business because no one likes having to muck around and pinch and carry on a screen anymore, right? So you've got to make sure that your site is mobile responsive. 16 million Australians are online. Here's an idea of where they are. The number one is Facebook. Facebook is by far the most popular. Now it depends, it doesn't mean that's where you should market because it may be where your target market isn't. You see that number two is YouTube. Now who owns YouTube, by the way? Anyone know? Google. Google owns YouTube. Do you know who owns Skype now? Microsoft, yeah. So all these companies, somewhere everything gets tied into something, right? So you're always dealing with one of the big boys. WordPress is a blogging platform. And what's amazing is the amount of larger companies now choosing to use WordPress as their platform for a website. Okay, because WordPress is a frame, if you like, or a base for building a website on. You can see LinkedIn is number 5. Twitter's number 7. Who's on Twitter? Yep, some of you are, not many. Twitter's like the confused little brother of social media. Yeah? It's the most misunderstood, but one of the most powerful, and I'll show you why very shortly. TripAdvisor obviously is very popular if you're in the travel or accommodation industry. Very important to be on there, or some sort of an experience. And you can see right down the bottom there, Google Plus is number 16. And Google Plus is a really important one for you to take note of, and I'm going to show you why very, very shortly, because a lot of people don't. Who's on Google Plus? Okay, quite a few of you. Good, okay. Because you can set up a business page. Now, Google Plus, by the way, keeps changing its outfit, and it's a bit confusing to keep up with at the moment. But guess what? Who owns Google Plus? Yeah, so they're never going to stop it. They're going to keep trying to make it work. There were rumours that it was going to be shut down, but then they brought out the new Google Places and Google Pages, and who knows what's happening. But I'm going to show you why you need to be on there towards the end of this presentation, because if you're not on there, your customers might be looking at your competitor's website more than yours, and we'll see why. Now, what they did do in this study, this is a Nielsen Australia study. Have you heard of Nielsen? Nielsen are a very in-depth, they do a lot of research, a research company. And companies like Myer or Telstra, these big companies pay Nielsen somewhere in the vicinity of about $35,000 to $45,000 to access their reports. That's how much, how much work they put into creating these reports. And so they said that out of this report, over 50% of the people that are online want to interact with a business via social media. 50%, I mean, that's a walloping big number, isn't it? 50% want to interact with you online on social media. So you have to be there. If you don't like Facebook, tough luck. Just get on there and get someone to run your Facebook page for you. Why? Because we know how many people are on Facebook, 12.5 million or 13 million. Sorry? 13.5 million people are on Facebook. So we know that we have to be on there. The next thing is that a bunch of people are now leaving their opinions about you online. So you need to be online to be able to see what's going on. Here's just a few of the sites. Yelp, FIFO and Waymo. There's other ways people can leave feedback as well. But you need to be online to hear what your customers are saying. Why do you want to hear what your customers are saying? Well, if it's good feedback, you want to use it to promote your business. If it's bad feedback, you want to fix it. Okay, now you've got this, like in the past, it wasn't as easy to get feedback directly back from your marketplace as it is right now. It's all online. It's easy. You can subscribe to these things. And as soon as someone leaves a review, you can be notified. Is that a good thing? Yeah, absolutely. And if it's negative, great. Learn from it. I see people get so upset when it's negative. Yep. Sorry? On some platforms you can, on most you cannot. And now, unless it's unwarranted, right, there are some trolls out there that will just leave stupid crap. Like you go to our Facebook page, we've got some people from, I don't know, some other country that action's not even in, leaving us 1-star reviews. I don't even know who they are. Maybe they just didn't like my haircut. I don't know what it was. And I haven't even tried to get that taken off because it doesn't bother me that much, you know. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be deleting honest feedback anyway. You'd rather put a good positive response of the outcome of the story. That's what I'd rather do, and say, yes, you know what, we all slip up from time to time. We're human. That's okay. Have we all screwed up at some point, yes or no? Yeah. But here's the thing. They did a study on why people will stop dealing with you. And it was an in-depth study, and they worked out what percentage of people stop dealing with you and for why. And here's some of the results. The one that you can't do anything about, or the reason why people stop dealing with you for 1% of the time, is they die. So not much you can do about that, yeah? Unless you're a funeral parlour, then they start dealing with you at that point. 2%, move to another place where it's not convenient to deal with you anymore. They said that 4% would deal with somebody who's now like a relative or friend who's gone into that same industry. 14% were moved because of product or price. But the big number was, in fact, before I tell you the big number, let me ask you a different question. If you had to rate the level of service out there, the level of service that you get on average, 1 being poor, 10 being brilliant, what would you rate the level of service you get from businesses out there? 2, 5, 7? 6? 8, you think? All right, let me ask you this question. How would you rate your level of service? Interesting, isn't it? And it doesn't matter what room of people I ask that. If I say rate the level of service of the business out there, I get 4s, 3s, 2s, 5s, 6, 7 and 8s is unusual. Most people would always be under 5. I say rate your own service, I always get 8s, 9s, 10s. But what do you think your customers are rating you? So they said 68% of people stop dealing with a business because of what's called perceived indifference. And what that means is you think your service is good, they think your service sucks. Yeah? It's called perceived indifference. So I think being able to get online feedback is fabulous. Being able to actually find out what people think about you is fabulous. Now, one of the challenges with online feedback is you get people, once they get behind their keyboards, they're a little bit braver. It's like the same, after having a couple of beers or a good strong wine. But, that's going to happen rarely. It does happen, but rarely. I think most of the time you get pretty good honest feedback. The next thing they said was 86% of the people that are online will use the internet to research you or your product or service before making a buying decision. So that tells us not only do we need to be online, but what we have online has got to make an impact. So we've got to have, we've got to make sure that our profiles are up to date on LinkedIn. We've got to make sure that our landing pages are up to date and relevant on our websites. We've got to make sure that if we do have reviews, we are answering in a positive way. Don't answer a review straight away if it's negative. Take a day to think about it, and then craft a review or get a professional writer to help you actually craft a response. Because I think it's really important that you understand that some of this stuff is etched in the internet forever. Okay, so you've got to make sure you do it really, really well. So here are the 5 platforms that I recommend every business should be on. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Google+. And I'm going to show you why. Before I do, all of these channels, one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is they do a one-way conversation. They start a social media channel, they just blast out a whole bunch of offers, and then they get sick and tired of running it because it doesn't work. Anybody got that happening? Yep, seen it happening? Definitely. It's a two-way conversation. You've got to engage people. You've got to communicate with people. You've got to add value. This is how marketing has changed from being push marketing to being what we call pull marketing now. And social media is probably the one place where you have to attract customers, not push your offer out to customers. You've got to join the conversation. The other benefit of being on all this social media is what I call SEO gravy. Now, you've probably heard of things like Google Penguin, Google Panda. Have you heard of these words? Google has a zoo. Right, they have a Zoom, and they keep every 6 months they bring an update to what they call their algorithms, okay, which is how they rank your website in the search engines. And every time they change the way that they rank your site, they give it another cute name. But the reality is, if you're not doing the right things, you get penalised. If you're doing the right things, you get ranked higher in the search engines. And that's why it's really important that you steer clear of anybody who, if it sounds like it's dodgy, it probably is. Okay, and there's these 2 terms in internet marketing. One's black hat, one's white hat. Black hat's the bad stuff, white hat's the good stuff. So, you go onto sites like that, and this is where Fiverr can be bad. You go onto Fiverr, and people will say they'll get you on the first page of Google. Well, they just, in the old days, what they were doing was giving you a whole bunch of backlinks from sites that weren't real sites because Google ranked you high for that. When they made the last change, Google now penalises you for that. Now, what Google does, Google looks at a whole bunch of things when they decide whether or not to show you on the first page, second page, wherever they show you. And one of the things they do is they look to see how relevant you are by how much communication and interaction are you having on social media. Okay, so they look at what social media pages you've got set up, what websites they're linked into, and then they can see what engagement. So if you have a social media page with a lot of likes, a lot of comments, and a lot of shares, Google goes, oh, you must be popular. It means that your content must be more relevant, more up to date, and more exciting. So we're going to bump you up in the rankings. And so it's called SEO gravy. The other thing that Google now does is that you'll see answers to search results on the first page from YouTube and from Google+. I'm going to show you that in a second. That's what, because they own those 2 things, they can do whatever they like. But you should be on those platforms.